Hey, thanks for joining me for our story today. Before we get started, I had an announcement or two. We will be ending up with the Old Testament stories in our Gospel Story Bible here in a few weeks, and then starting with the New Testament. So if you've been following along with our family devotional, The Long Story Short, we will be moving to the Old Story New pretty soon. So you may want to go ahead and grab a copy of that on Amazon. I think that we actually have several copies here at church that I had put out before for sale. So if you would like to purchase one of those, they're $10, I believe. So I will have those on a Sunday morning, or if you want to send me a message, I'm happy to leave it out on the front porch for you if that's best. Second announcement is we will be having a kids Easter egg extravaganza on Sunday, March 14th in the afternoon. So look for more information coming about that. It will be hopefully an in-person event, if not a drive-through, and certainly there will be a drive-through option only if you prefer to pick up a set of resurrection eggs and devotionals. We're kind of doing an Easter basket for families, so look for more information coming about that. All right, our story today is story number 75, likely one you may have heard before, Daniel and the Lion's Den, from the book of Daniel, chapter 6. And as I was preparing, I was flipping through our family devotional, and they had some facts about lions that I thought were very interesting, so I thought I would read you those before we get started. The African lion is the largest carnivore in Africa. Do you know what carnivore means? That's right, it's a meat eater. A carnivore is a meat eater, so the African lion is the biggest meat eater in Africa. Male lions can grow 8 feet long. Maybe you can find a tape measure at home and measure out what that would look like. How does that compare maybe to your sofa? Probably bigger than that, longer than that. And they stand, not counting the tail, 4 feet tall. A mature male lion can weigh more than 500 pounds. His roar can be heard 5 miles away. That is really far. So maybe your parents can help you come up with an idea of how far that is. How far is it from your house to church? How far is it from your house to your grocery store? So if you were 5 miles away, you could hear a lion roaring. Their needle-sharp claws are about 1.5 inches long. That's like this long, which you probably can't tell how long that is on your screen. And if I had something easily accessible, I would show it to you, but 1.5 inches long. Their longest pointed front teeth are more than 1 inch long, and their jaws are very strong. They can run 30 miles an hour in short bursts, and they can knock down a zebra with one swipe of their paw. So that was kind of interesting to learn a little more about lions. How do you think you'd feel if you got shut in a den of lions overnight? That sounds really scary. So let's see what happened to Daniel in our story today. And then after we finish that story, I'm going to read you Jesus and the Lion's Den, which I read over the summer in a video. So you may have heard it before, but it's a fun story. So listen up for that too. All right, Daniel and the Lion's Den. King Nebuchadnezzar and his son Belshazzar died, and Babylon was taken over by a new group of people, the Medes and the Persians. Darius the Mede became the new king. Darius chose 120 leaders to rule over the kingdom, and he picked Daniel and 2 other men to be presidents over them. Daniel served the king so well that the king planned to put Daniel in charge of the whole kingdom. But when the other leaders discovered the king's plan, they were jealous. They looked for a way to make Daniel look bad, but they couldn't find anything. So they came up with an evil plan to trap him. They came to the king and suggested he make a new law. "O king, you should make a law that anyone who prays to any god or man but you should be thrown into a den of lions." They lied to Darius and said all the presidents of the kingdom had agreed, but no one had asked Daniel. The other leaders knew Daniel prayed to the Lord every day. Once the king signed the law, it could not be changed, so the trap was set for Daniel. And what do you think Daniel did when he heard about the new law? He didn't stop praying. Daniel opened his window and knelt down in front of it so he could look toward Jerusalem as he prayed. He didn't do it in hiding. And just like always, Daniel gave thanks to God, no matter who was watching. Soon the evil men came to spy on Daniel. They caught him praying just as they had hoped, and they hurried to tell the king. Since Daniel had broken the law, he had to be thrown into the den of lions. The king was very troubled by this news. He looked for a way to save Daniel, but the law could not be changed. Sadly, the king ordered Daniel thrown into the lion's den. But he said to Daniel, "May your God, whom you serve continually, deliver you." Daniel 6:16. After Daniel was thrown to the lions, a stone was laid across the opening, and the king sealed it with his ring so that no one could open it. All that night, the king did not eat or sleep. As soon as morning came, he rushed to the den and called out, "O Daniel, servant of the living God, has your God, whom you serve continually, been able to deliver you from the lions?" Daniel 6:20. Soon a voice came up from the lion's den. It was Daniel. "My God has sent his angel and shut the lions' mouths, and they have not harmed me," he said. Daniel 6:21. Daniel came out of the lion's den without a scratch. The king commanded the wicked leaders be thrown into the lion's den themselves. Before they reached the bottom, the lions attacked and tore them to pieces. Did you know that we can trust the Lord to save us, just as Daniel did? God saved Daniel from certain death by closing the lion's mouths. God saves us from our sin and death through the cross. Daniel's salvation points to the greater salvation Jesus would one day bring. The Apostle Paul wrote to Timothy, "Christ Jesus came into the world to save sinners." 1 Timothy 1:15. And the book of Hebrews tells us that Jesus is able to save completely those who come to God through him. Hebrews 7:25. We all need to be saved, not from lions, but from our sin. I forgot to show you the picture for today. Here it is. So in the picture, you see the person in red right here, the angel that God sent. What is the angel in the picture doing to the lions? See it again. That's right, he's shutting the lions' mouths so they can't harm Daniel. What can we learn from this story about God? That's a great question, and that's a great question to ask yourself anytime you hear a passage of the Bible or a Bible story. What do you learn about God from that story? And what do you learn about in this story? Well, one thing we learn is that God is faithful. He saved Daniel, and he can save, and he will save. And unlike the gods of the times that the other men were serving, false idols that weren't living, not the one true living God, they weren't able to save Daniel like our God is. And what can we learn from Daniel's example? King Darius said, "May your God, whom you serve continually, deliver you." We know that Daniel prayed to the Lord even in spite of the law that the king's evil leaders trapped the king into making, that Daniel, even in spite of that law, still served God. All right, so our second story, same story, second version, is Jesus and the lion's den, which is funny because usually you think of this story as called Daniel and the lion's den, like it did in that Bible, in the our picture Bible, the Gospel Story Bible that we use. So let's see why in this book we can figure out why it calls it Jesus in the lion's den. All right. Did you know that the oldest stories in the Bible are a bit like puzzles? If you look very carefully, you can spot some Jesus moments. Those are moments when someone in the story is a bit like Jesus. So this book is about the really exciting story of Daniel. But what makes it even more exciting is you can spot Jesus moments in it too. There are lots of lions in this story, but every time you see this special lion, like this, it's a clue that there's a Jesus moment too. Are you ready to start the story? Let's begin. Do you have any habits? Maybe you sing in the bathtub, or twiddle your thumbs, or stick your fingers up your nose. Yuck. This is a story about Daniel and his habit. It was a great habit, but it was a habit that got him into a lot of trouble. So from reading our story previously, what do you think his habit is? Daniel knew God, the real king of everything and everyone and everywhere. Daniel loved God very much, so 3 times a day, Daniel knelt down by his window and prayed. So that's his habit. That's a pretty good habit, don't you think? Prayer is talking to God. We can talk to him anywhere, anytime, and about anything. What a wonderful habit. How could that get anyone into trouble? All right, here's the picture for the second pages. Do you see any of the special lions? Daniel worked for Darius, the super powerful king of Babylon. Daniel was so good at his job that the king wanted him to run the whole kingdom. But the other people who worked for King Darius didn't like Daniel, and they didn't like the God he prayed to. So they decided to get Daniel into trouble with the king. All right, any lions on that page? There was just one problem with their plan. Daniel had done nothing wrong. Nothing. But then they thought of something. They could use Daniel's habit to get him into trouble. Daniel's enemies got King Darius to make a new law. It said that for 30 days, no one was allowed to pray to anyone except the king. And if anyone broke the law, they would be thrown into a den full of huge, hungry lions. Oh no, what would Daniel do? If he obeyed the king of Babylon, he would stay safe. But if he obeyed God, the real king of everyone and everywhere, he would keep praying. And that meant Daniel would be lion food. Safety or lion food? Which would Daniel choose? Daniel's enemies crept up to his house and looked up at his window. Daniel was praying. They'd caught him. The plan had worked. So they rushed back and told the king Daniel was about to become lion food. King Darius tried and tried all day to find a way to save Daniel, but he couldn't. Even the king wasn't able to change the law. So when the sun went down, Daniel was taken to the den of huge, hungry lions and thrown in. "I hope your God can save you," said the king. "Roar," said the lions. A big stone was rolled across the mouth of the den, and everyone went to bed. But the king couldn't sleep. He tossed and turned and turned and tossed all night long. In the morning, he rushed back to the den. "Daniel, has your God been able to save you from the lions?" asked the king. And then he listened. A voice came from the den. "Yes, O king, I am not hurt. God sent his angel to shut the lion's mouth. God saved me because I had done nothing wrong, nothing." Daniel was lifted out of the den, and there wasn't even a scratch on him. Daniel had trusted God, and God had saved him. He is the God who saves. Then, because King Darius was such an important king, he wrote to all the people in all the countries in all the world, and he said, "Daniel's God is the living God. He is the real king of everyone and everywhere, now and forever. He saves his people. The end. Oops. No, it isn't the end at all. It's time to spot some Jesus moments. Look back at the pictures in the book. There were lots of lions in this story, but did you spot the special lion? He appears every time there's a Jesus moment in the story. Each Jesus moment is a moment where Daniel is a little like Jesus, the Son of God. Did you find all 4? Here's what they mean. All right, here's number 1. It was in this scene up here. Daniel's enemies wanted to get rid of him, so they tried to get him in trouble. And that's what Jesus's enemies did too, wasn't it? They tried to get Jesus in trouble lots of times. Okay, here's the second one. It was in this scene, up on the chair on the throne for Darius. But in his job, Daniel had done nothing wrong, nothing. His enemies had to invent a new law to get Daniel into trouble. Who else did nothing wrong in his whole life? Jesus. Jesus had done nothing wrong, nothing. So his enemies had to tell lies about Jesus to get him into trouble. All right, special moment, lion number 3 was right here. When Daniel heard about his enemies' plans, he knew he was going to be arrested and thrown to the lions. So what did Daniel do? That's right, he prayed. He prayed to God, just like we can pray to God anytime and anywhere. When Jesus knew that he was going to be arrested and killed on a cross, what did he do? He prayed. He prayed too. He went to the Garden of Gethsemane and prayed, didn't he? All right, the 4th one was this one. This is the picture. Did Daniel die in the den of lions? No, the lions were very hungry and Daniel was as good as dead. But God, the real king of everyone and everywhere, brought Daniel out of the den. Did Jesus die on the cross? Yes. Yes? Yes. Jesus really was dead, unlike Daniel. But then God brought his son out of death. And do you know something amazing? God promises to bring all of his son's friends out of death and into life with him too. Can God really do that? Yes, he can. He's done it before. And if you would like to be one of Jesus's friends, for God to bring you to life, talk to your mom and dad about that. So one day, all of Jesus's friends will live with him forever and ever. And for now, we can enjoy the same habit Daniel did. What was that habit? That's right, it was praying. We can talk to the real King of everyone and everywhere, every day. Thanks for joining me today. It has been a while since I've gotten to see those of you who make it to church on Sundays, as we've had lots of snow. I hope you've enjoyed that time with your family. I'm praying for you, and I miss you.